Welcome in. It's the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Wednesday edition. Patrick Wheeler back with you. Looks like Zach managed to get through the show yesterday without me somehow. Well done. Well done. Good work. I know it wasn't easy.
It was rough.
I suppose you're in here today. I'm surprised you didn't need another day off.
Mental stress. It was funny because I sat down at the gas. I was at Am Pride. Always loved going there. Great people. Gave me a big chicken strip basket as I was leaving. But I'm sitting there and I'm putting my equipment together, and this old guy, easily 85, 90, goes, "Hey, where's that kid with the moron comments? The idiotic ideas."
Wheeler?
Oh, you mean Patrick? And he's like, "Is that moron's name?" And I'm like,
Zach
"That's the one."
Lancaster.
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, he's gone today." Oh, thank God.
That was my neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying it was
filled
actually,
him in.
yeah, Tom let him know.
Yeah.
I love,
That makes a lot of sense now.
I told him, say, whoever's there, maybe both of them,
yeah.
He was waiting on me.
moronic comments.
Make
every
sure you
day.
get after him.
Yeah.
I love going after 85-year-olds, man. That's my thing.
Well, I got into a stare down that one time. We were sitting there, and I just said, "How great is it to be an old man and just sit in a gas station?" Because I worked at a gas station in
I don't
the summer
sit in the
between
gas
my
station.
freshman and sophomore year in college. And they sat there for 4, 5, 6 hours drinking coffee and reading the paper and hanging out with their buds.
It's a great life.
And it really pissed him off because he heard me and he stared me down for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not making fun of you, man. You're living the dream. What are you talking about?"
It's not the only time that's going to happen, though. So you better be prepared. You know,
So
I can't steer you guys down on Wednesday because we're just sitting together here. So
True.
I mean,
True.
But we understand what you're doing. Anyway,
but you understand mentally where
Yeah,
I'm coming
we
from.
get
though.
it.
So
Okay.
what you're telling me is old men are crotchety.
Well, we
and they're
are,
gonna
but
be.
let me
Breaking
tell you, old
news.
men earn the right to be grouchy.
See, and that's what I was saying. Like, he's living a great life, and he got real mad at me.
I mean, all of us have been through times where you couldn't be grouchy,
True.
and you had to curtail your comments.
Like today.
But now,
Like today.
let me tell you, we just let it fly today.
Yes, we do. That's the best part, which we will coming up. Oklahoma State, Kansas State. We'll look at that here in just a little bit. Look around the Big 12 as well as we're getting closer, and pretty much everybody's actually now going to get involved in conference play. So we'll take a look at some of the games that have gone on with them. It's kind of an open league right now, man. It really is if you look at it. And then we'll get to buy or sell and much more later on. Tom, I understand that you're going to keep the Kansas State theme going with Where Are They Now today?
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Stan Weber, who was all Big 8 quarterback at Kansas State way back when. He's in his 35th year now on the Kansas State broadcast network for football and basketball. But a mainstay at K-State. He went there, obviously has a couple of degrees. His kids, he had one of his sons plays now. One did play as a coaching somewhere else. But Stan is we're not gonna get into a lot of the peripheral stuff. We're gonna get into basic X's and O's. What do they bring? What do we bring? Because that's what Stan and I usually do when he's on. And I bring him on for basketball too, but Stan's a good X and O guy, so we're gonna cover this matchup Friday or Saturday from just a pure who does what and what's it gonna look like kind of point of view.
Have you decided who you're rooting for Saturday yet, Tom?
It's my Saturday where I can't lose on when these two teams play.
He's going to show up wearing an NCAA hat.
like what's his name now?
Rob Lowe.
Yeah, Rob Lowe.
Go Sports.
NCAA.
I hope everyone has fun.
He became the meme with just showing up to an NFL game and just had an NFL hat on.
That's going to be Tom on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know it ain't going to be me. Go have a good time. That ain't the thing. I mean,
Go
I'm here to enjoy
NCAA.
myself.
no, it ain't going to be me.
Who would ever wear an NCAA hat?
I have, it's a day of mixed emotions for me, for damn sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be politically correct and say it isn't, but it is.
So how do you go about trying to pick who you want to win?
Well, I don't necessarily pick who I want to win. Like I said, I'll be fine with either team that wins. And basically the best team's going to win, so I have no problem with that. But, K-State, that's part of our life, and it was, and Manhattan was. And, I could, again, when I was working here, I could be politically correct. Well, I'm not working there anymore, so I can have a somewhat of a dual affiliation. So either way, I'll be fine Saturday with whoever wins.
Yeah, should be a good one for sure, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. I want to get the final thoughts on Boise State, and it goes with it here because Josh Sills had a great line. when he was asked about the final play of the game. So we're going to take a listen to what he said here. And here's Josh Sills.
My hat goes off to every single walk-on we have. I have never been in that position, so I cannot speak for him as far as how huge it was for him. But I know it was beyond huge for me to see a kid like that make a play like that because, I'm sure that's what he dreamed of and what he wanted to happen. But that's a testament to him, his character, his hard work, his dedication. And I know that it can't be easy for him having to come here, prove himself, and then still on top of that, he has to pay for his own way and that kind of thing. So he doesn't have the luxury of a scholarship check or any of that. So that's just a huge testament to who he is as a person and how he was raised.
Whenever you got the call that it was a passing play, that it was likely going out his way, kind of what was the energy like there among you guys?
Actually, so it came into us as a run play, and we didn't know that it was a pass play until we all saw the ball go over our heads, and we were like, oh, it's pass. But, yeah, so it was just a run-pass option, one of those kind of things, I think. But, I'm beyond happy for him. Super glad he made that play.
Okay, so Josh Sills, like a lot of us, basically were saying, hey, that's going to be a run play. I mean, it's third down. They'll just run the ball. And then he looks up, and there goes the ball, and it's headed to Cale Cabanis. So I thought that was pretty interesting. An RPO for sure, but he definitely expected the R more than the P in that play.
And I think conventional wisdom probably would make us all feel that way. I was surprised when I saw it in the air. I know Sanders has the option to check off and do things that he sees differently. That was a little surprising on that one. But if you get right now to it, though, and I chuckle on that we've heard 3 different versions of what that play was. But let's just say the very worst happens, and today we're talking about how the hell could they call a pass play? But I still think in the back of the coaches' minds they had this feeling of security that, all right, so it didn't work, so now we got to kick it away. Well, Hutton's been good all day. He's gonna pin him on the 10, and our defense has been smothering in the second half, and they're not going anywhere. So I mean, there's the comfort zone,
and on top
and
of
the
it,
logic.
They didn't have any timeouts.
Right.
So the chances of them getting in field goal range would have been very slim, but you still would have.
Well, they would have had the
been
ball,
there.
and they can chunk it,
Right.
and they might run
you
off.
just never know.
Yeah.
But so it's clearly, I mean, I said that I obviously didn't think it was a good play call. It worked out, thank goodness, but it's one that left me confused, and some of the linemen obviously too. Whenever they saw that go up,
Surprise!
yeah. So there, I thought that was great from Josh. He was like, yeah, well, I'm like you guys, I didn't really know, but it worked out. Out of all I think Spencer attempted 13 passes in that entire game, and he just needed that one to fall in, and it did out of all of them. So,
but in all fairness, there were about 3 or 4 that should have been caught.
Yeah, there were a few that were off hands, right, and things like that.
You got to be able to corral it. I don't care if you're the 4th string guy or you don't play at all. I mean, you're in there to do one thing: run that play, and the ball's in the air, catch it.
Well, and it makes me wonder too when that play was called, and there's a lot of RPOs called in this offense. They called in this situation. He goes up to the line, Spencer, and something tells me he was thinking, I'm going to throw the whole time. I don't think he ever even entertained.
Did anybody ever ask Spencer about that? I mean, has he gone on record and said?
We haven't even talked
we haven't had a
with him,
chance to.
Okay.
But I mean, you watch that play, snaps the ball, drops back, looks left.
Yeah.
There's no looking around. There's no nothing.
That's what it still just when I see that I'm just wondering
great
like
ball, though.
I'm just wondering like why though. I really do question it, and that was his goal the entire time, and his thought process was, I don't even care about handing it off. We're not going to do any of that. I know exactly where I'm going, to this walk-on receiver over here. I'm going to throw a good enough ball to where he has a chance to go up and get it one-on-one. Hopefully he doesn't get intercepted or anything like that, or knocked away and incomplete and the clock stops. I mean, he just went up and did it.
Well, it's not the first time since Spencer Sanders has been here that he's decided to opt out of a play, if you will,
Yeah.
and do something else.
Well, and he has that ability as a QB.
He's got the permission or whatever to do that. But sometimes even some of the things he checks out of and goes to whatever. And I know for a fact if he left some of the coaches kind of shaking their heads, please tell me what you were thinking on this. But as it turned out, I mean, even if it turned out a disaster, okay, I still think Boise State would have been 80 yards. They would have been starting probably on their own 10. No timeouts. So they maybe would have had to gone to the 30. And you can't count this other guy. This guy's field goal, when he could have won it, was horrible anyway. So I think the confidence level, hey, we'll just send Knowles' guy out there. They'll stuff him on 4 plays, and then we'll get the ball back and kneel down and go home. So I don't think there was a lot of risk involved, so to speak. Unlike, was it Missouri State? That was the one I shook my head with.
Yeah.
The last 3 snaps, 2 of them were passes, stop the clock. Instead of making Missouri State take timeouts. I mean, that one, I was a little concerned about that one. And then, Gundy said he called those, so okay, he called them. But conventional wisdom is generally boring, but that's me. I'm boring. I go with the conventional wisdom thing.
Well, I'm like I said this week, I'm glad it worked out, because if it hadn't, and we're back here talking about here's what they called on 3rd down, and Boise State got the ball back, kicked the field goal, and won the game. Then it's a 360, and everyone's losing their minds.
I think that would have been a long shot, though. I mean, even
I do
in
too.
retrospect,
I know. I'm just saying, if it did happen,
Bachmeier really had no time throughout the entire second half.
Yeah, he was in trouble.
And there's no reason to think that Knowles would have let up on the pressure.
No,
he might have brought everybody for 4 snaps.
Yeah.
So
made him beat him with that, and that was kind of a good luck situation there. Looking at last week against Boise State, you went into that game knowing, if you're Oklahoma State, you can run the football against them. That was pretty obvious you were going to be able to do that. Jalen Warren clearly did that in a big way. You go into it this week against Kansas State, they don't allow very many yards on the ground, under 2 yards per attempt, right? I mean, that's nothing.
But they do allow a lot of yards.
Exactly, that's the counter. You can
now
throw
you
the football.
Have somebody to throw it to.
Yeah.
We don't know. It'd be a big secret, I'm sure, till kickoff. Who's there? Who isn't? Who's playing? Who isn't not playing? Whose ankle doesn't hurt anymore? All that crap. But, if there are a couple back from the injured reserve list, if you will, they'll force them to throw it to Tay Martin or whoever's there, either Green or whatever. Whoever's there, they're going to force them to throw it. Presley, I think, is okay, unless he has an ankle, too, that everybody seems to have. So they'll force him to throw it. I don't know that that's a bad thing, because once again, you can only cover so much, and they dedicate to the line of scrimmage as many as 3 down, but 5, 6 guys sometimes in the box saying, you're not going to run this thing. But one of the things that Oklahoma State does have going, let's just take the pass away, all right? Yeah, Warren, they know he's a known quantity now, right? He's been on all their lists this week in Manhattan. But they still remember that quarterback, that guy named Sanders, can escape out the back door a lot. So they just can't. If that's all Oklahoma State had, and I'm not knocking Shane, but if Shane was the quarterback Saturday, defensively it'd be a lot, quote unquote, easier to defend Oklahoma State, because you just come after him and you stop the run. But Sanders kind of equalizes some of that now. I mean, you just can't bring 6, 7 guys blindly and just forget that this guy can escape. And you bring 6 or 7 guys trying. You may hit Warren in the mouth, but here's the quarterback just slipping through, and all of a sudden he's got 20 yards. So that's a big problem for them.
So, Zach, the question remains, because Oklahoma State has shown no matter really what they yield out of it, they're going to continue to run the football until things work or until something pops. The question is, can that happen against Kansas State successfully? Can Jalen Warren get it going? He's going to get a ton of touches this week again. Mm-hmm. Is this going to be a situation where Kansas State finally does give up a few rushing yards in a game?
Yeah, I think so. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and give up, 150 yards. But if you look at each week, Oklahoma State's rushing game has gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. Now, let's look at who Kansas State's played in the first 3 games. Now, given up, was it 64, I think? 64 yards a game is what they're allowing. That's impressive. I don't care who you're playing. But they barely beat Southern Illinois, and they beat Nevada by double digits. And then Stanford. Stanford was a good win, but, I mean, it's not like they're going up and playing the best running games in college football. Now, Oklahoma State doesn't have the best running game, but I would have to hope that Oklahoma State has a better rushing attack than Southern Illinois and Nevada. The rushing, the offensive line, the rush block, the run block has gotten better with each game. We knew that they could run the ball against Boise State. I didn't expect them to run it that well against Boise State. Jalen Warren has established himself. And if you have even one receiver back, God forbid 2 receivers back, then that adds another wrinkle to that RPO. So I think they rush. I think they rush the ball better against K-State than the 64 yards or whatever it is.
54.7.
54,
Wow.
not 64. 54. They could double that, and I think when you look at it compared to Boise State, it's like, oh my God, they only had 100 yards against K-State. True, but it's going to be better, I think, than Missouri State, and it's going to be better than I think against Tulsa. It's not going to be better than Boise State, but it's going to be better than the first two games, and I think that's really important in the progression.
Well, they're going to see a different animal in K-State than they did in Boise State.
And that too.
Boise State hung in there in defense, but they're not like this defense here.
No.
And again, Warren was an unknown quantity in Boise. They knew he was on the roster, and they should have known him from Utah State, being in the same geographical area. But I doubt on their scouting report that we got to stop Warren.
And then they went into halftime saying we got to stop him, and still couldn't stop him.
I think it was contagious, though. I think the offensive line made a lot of his runs after that 75-yarder.
Yeah, Hunter Woodard being back, that was a big boost.
But you're going to have a harder time moving these guys out of there on the defensive front this week than you did last week.
And that's why I don't think it'll be huge. I think it'll be better. I think they'll put up more than 54 yards, but it's not going to be 150, 160. I think you're looking somewhere around 100, and I think that's a big improvement considering you're going up against a really solid run defense.
And I don't get that carried away. I really don't about how many yards you do passing, how many yards you running.
Right.
That has never been a big thing to me. Just like how many yards you give up has never been a big thing to me. I'll come back and say, well, how many points did you give up?
Yeah, as long as you're doing it,
so
get it done.
There are different ways to win a game. This is obviously just a little different for Oklahoma State this year, to say the least. Boise was a perfect example. I thought the coaches did a good job of figuring out what can we do to beat these guys. Obviously, we can't throw it like we want to throw it. So we're going to run it, and we're going to block, and we're going to play defense and have good special teams. That's what we're going to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, is that, I use the sexy. It's not sexy football. Not like we've had here in the last decade where we run up and down and score 50 points. No, it's not that. And when you play tight games, you got to be lucky, too. I mean, quite frankly, Boise State got screwed out of a touchdown. I mean, that was a definite fumble. Things shouldn't have been blown dead.
Yep.
He was in the end zone. They should have said, come on back, son. We're going to look at this. Throw your hands up. You scored. But we're going to go look at the video and see if there was really a fumble. Well, that's the way it should have been. But they blew it dead.
Yeah.
Now,
which can't happen.
I mean, that's nobody wants that. It seems like nobody wants that responsibility anymore. We'll just let it go, and then we'll go look at the video.
Well, and they're taught to do that.
And see
the
if we're
referees
right.
are taught to do that.
So I don't know why the guy.
I don't either.
Now, even if he thought it was down, it was close enough. So you got to be lucky. If you told Avalos, I'm going to give you the ball at the OS, you're 36. It's going to be a 36-yard field goal, and you got your kicker had missed. You got a chance to win the game. No matter what went on, you're going to have that. He'd say, hell yes, let's go. Well, the kick was horrible. I'm not sure Taylor had all that much to do with that kick not going through, because it looked terrible coming off his foot and looked terrible as it was making his way through. But, if you're going to beat an Oklahoma State like a boys, if you're going to win that game, you got to hit that field goal. I mean, you just got to do that.
Yeah.
And you only have so many chances in a close game. Oklahoma State took advantage of what they did. So I have no problem with I think sometimes the only stat to me that makes any difference is the final score. I don't care how close it is. There are different ways to get to that score. And you know what? You, of all people, should know this. Being a baseball guy, there are teams every year, but there were some teams for decades. They're pretty comfortable winning 2-1, 3-1, 3-2.
Sure. And I'll tell
Don't
you,
have to win 10-2.
No, and I'll tell you this, Tom. I think that clearly through 3 games, the game plan is centralized around that idea for Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
It's our offense isn't going to score a lot. They put up what they put up. Our defense is going to win us games. That's the formula for this team right now. Until something changes, which, again, is a big if. I don't know if that's going to ever happen this season or not. And this is not necessarily the ideal spot to actually have that happen. It's good Kansas State defense. So you could throw the ball on them, but you're going to have to get some receivers back. We know that. Spencer's going to have to play better. Play calling's going to have to be better. And in this game, you got to be able to establish the run more so than Kansas State has allowed anybody to do so far if you want any of that to work. That's
the only downside of that argument was Oklahoma State owned the third quarter, field position, time-wise, but did not put a point on the board.
Right.
Now, the good news is you're shortening the game. That's less time that they have to do anything with it, and that's that's the plus. But eventually, you're going in the Big 12, you're going to have to put points on the board somehow, some way. And I do think this is going to be every point's going to be premium Saturday night because neither team is just a juggernaut offensively, and the Cowboys catch a huge break again with no Skylar Thompson. Now. They did. I don't. When did Thompson go out? Did he play?
No, he was out in the game last year against Oklahoma State.
I'm trying to think when he went out that year.
Few weeks before, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean
it was pretty close to Oklahoma State.
It's neither here nor there, but this is 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Oklahoma State has lucked out. Is what I'm saying. Not having to face him.
Right.
Not dissing on Howard. Howard does his own thing. And
I lied. 2 months. He got hurt the second week, first or second week.
Okay.
But he had played well last week. Howard did.
Yeah, he did. He's a different dude in terms of what he can do versus what Thompson can do, and I appreciate what Kleiman does because Kleiman, a lot like Gundy did and his staff last week, they don't just throw their hands up and say, "Oh, now what are we going to do? We can't do anything." Coaches on major college football on that level, they get paid a hell of a lot of money to figure it out. You got, all right, put 11 guys out there and do something else.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, with the quarterbacks, even with whoever's been out there, they've thrown for 1 touchdown through 3 games, Tom. Mm-hmm. So, as you know,
not necessarily a juggernaut.
Right. And Oklahoma State, I mean, they don't succeed a ton of yards on the ground. So, it's going to be, I'm like you, it's back and forth. I think every point's at a premium. Right now, Oklahoma State is a 6-point favorite in this game, despite Kansas State being ranked. It's a home game for OSU, as we know. That one started out at 9, I believe, which was pretty significantly high. I mean, that shocked a lot of people. As far as a better's sake, hopefully no one took it there and waited till it went down to 6. And it may get lower than that even. But if Skylar Thompson were in, it might be a lot closer to even. So they put it at 6 right now. The total is at 46. Which I would, I'm going unders club probably again on that if it stays that way. I mean, it's the Oklahoma State, I've said this for the start of the season really, and even last year, is a disaster against the spread. They are not good. But, last week they were underdogs and came in and got it done, so if you took them there, you could have got some money.
Save your money.
Yeah, but man, they're just a disaster. They don't cover the spread very often. So
I would say Kleiman's got to be beside himself is not true. And I'll get into this with Stan. You got, even though you have to deliver it, okay, and Howard's an adequate thrower.
Yeah.
Thompson, to me, is an adequate thrower. He's not just a slinger. He can run it as well as he does throw it. But you got 2 of the fastest receivers in the league in Brooks and Knowles. They just haven't been able to get balls to them, and other teams have taken them out of the game. You got Vaughn, who you can throw to out of the backfield, which they do. So that's three speedsters, and yet they haven't been able to get that going even with Thompson. So I'm sure that has been part of their preparation this week is to find a little bit, maybe throw it to the Illinois transfer tight end guy. Throw it to somebody to move the sticks with the arm, and they haven't been very good at that this year.
Should be a fun one. Kickoff at 6 o'clock on Saturday. ESPN Plus is where you can find this matchup. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, let's take a look around the Big 12 and see how other teams have fared so far. Maybe give us a good look as to what's to come in the conference down the line. That's up next here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
Screaming out at the top of my lungs, tell the world that I found the one. Whoa, my baby's finer than the golden sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now. I've been touched by an angel.
We're back into the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, Wednesday edition with Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Tommy D in with us as well. Let's take a look at what happened in the Big 12 Conference. this past weekend in college football. Oklahoma brings in Nebraska and wins by a touchdown. And we had talked a little bit about this on the pregame, Tom, but that was a little too close for comfort there once again for Oklahoma. The question is, since they've looked shaky in definitely 2 out of the 3 games that they play in the non-conference, you guys expect them to just, once conference play rolls around, fully get back to where everyone thought they were going to be and they just run the table? Or is this going to be a weekend thing where we're like, oh, man, 3-point win, 6-point win, ooh, touchdown win, stuff like that?
I think this is an ugly football year. Number one, if ugly is defined by close games and turnovers and things like that, then I guess ugly is ugly. But I still think no matter what they look like against Tulane, no matter what they look like against Nebraska, they've got the best people, the best personnel, the best team in the league. Now, they may not go unscathed. They could lose 2. I mean, there's no doubt that they're not going to just run the table and just run all over everybody. But I do think they'll improve, just like everybody else will improve. I mean, they got an uneven situation going on right now is what they got. And I don't know, Zach, you may disagree, but the Nebraska game, to me, was not so much what OU did not do. Now, will Nebraska play that good the rest of the year?
No.
Probably not.
No.
Okay. So
I think it was an emotional game.
for all Scott Frost is and isn't, you got to give him one thing credit. He had his team ready to play.
Yeah.
And Martinez is an equalizer, is a running quarterback. He is. He's a tough dude to handle and probably will be every time they play. So I think it's easy to come down on the favorite and not give credit to the team that they played because OU looked shaky, probably more so because of what Nebraska did. And if Nebraska could kick extra points and come up with the points that are there given to them, not give up a run back for 2, they would have won the game.
It was like the least amount of points they've scored in like 5 years or something like that. It's been a while.
I think the least under Riley. Is that not right?
Yeah,
23?
yeah. So it's been a minute for that to happen to them. I think that this weekend, they've got an interesting matchup. It's West Virginia, and I would never count West Virginia out. With the weapons that they have, they had a big win against Virginia Tech last weekend.
Almost gave it away.
Yeah, they did, and so they're certainly susceptible to that. This could be a game, honestly, like Oklahoma could say, it would come in and try to flex and try to blow them out. They're 17-point favorites.
Really?
But, yeah,
Wow.
which kind of, I mean, it's maybe a
Pretty
little
stout.
a little high for me maybe. But I would, again, never count West Virginia out to give you a ball game. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on, but certainly Oklahoma, a lot of eyes on them with the way that the season has started for him.
You guys may not agree with me here, but I've never been a Daggy fan. I think when the chips are down, he's not the guy I wanted at quarterback. And he almost gave it away against Virginia Tech, trying to run out the clock and throws a bubble screen right to the guy from Virginia Tech. Now you got to send your defenders out there and have a goal line stand from the 8 in the game's last minute. So that's a guy who should have known a hell of a lot better than what he did. So I've never been a Daggy, I guess, supporter, if you will, and I think Oklahoma will probably put some heat on him, make him do something he didn't want to do.
Yeah, he's always just been a guy.
Yeah.
I thought he has a decent arm. I think that's there, but the decision making's always been a problem. Certainly has, and changing this year. So
and I think you get to this level. If you're a Division I Power 5 starting quarterback, chances are you're going to have a decent arm. But I mean, Spencer Sanders has a really good arm. Now, I'm not saying that Spencer Sanders is Jared Dagey, but Spencer has a really good arm. Now, his decision-making ability at times is a little suspect, but Spencer's a good example of Division I Power 5 quarterback with a really strong arm.
I agree with you. You don't rise to the starting quarterback's role on this level without having at least a halfway decent arm that can deliver football.
I'll tell you who had a really great arm, Taylor Cornelius.
Yeah, and he never got credit for it.
No, he did not. That dude threw for almost 4,000 or almost 5,000 yards.
Was there ever a quarterback at Oklahoma State that was really good and really effective and productive who was criticized as much as Corndog was?
No. And I talked about that the other day, and I don't want to try to really go back in history, because it's obviously a moot point. But fans, think about how good that 2019 team would have been had Taylor Cornelius had another year of eligibility. You had a 2,000-yard rusher in Chuba Hubbard, and you throw a guy out there in Taylor Cornelius with another year. It was almost 4,000, almost 5,000, but he completed, nearly 60% of his balls and 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. That offense would have been electric with Taylor Cornelius.
I'll tell you, at Oklahoma State, though, and I'm not being dramatic here, in all the years that I've been around this football program for 40 years, more times than not, we always walk away saying, man, if we just had an offense to go with this defense, if we just had a defense to go with this offense.
This year is the perfect
example. Very few teams walk away every year and say, hey, offense was good, defense was good, special teams.
Well, the one
Alabama
year,
maybe.
Look at the 1 year it happened at Oklahoma State. Won a Big 12 championship.
Yeah. But rarely do you have equality in terms of production on both sides of the ball. I don't know why it happens that way, it just does. And then the Oklahoma State way of talking about it, say, well, we could take the defense from this team and put this on the offense of this team. We had a hell of a team. But, well, you can't do that, obviously. You have to deal with what you have.
And the last team here, I know it's easy and popular to say this because it's happened multiple times, but it's easy to say give up on Texas because they're not going to do anything. But I'm not doing that yet because of the head coaching situation. I think Steve Sarkisian is too talented of a play caller and play designer to completely – I mean, after what they did against Arkansas, right, they really kind of fumbled the bag, if you will, and it was a bad look. Arkansas just put it on them. Texas couldn't move the ball, and that was after looking so great in Week 1 against Louisiana. So they started off the Big 12 conference slate with Texas Tech at home, and this is a game that could maybe result in a bit of a shootout, potentially, depending on what Texas Tech brings to the table. Texas is only a 7.5-point favorite, but I just don't want to – I'm not going to count them out yet. Now, if they lay an egg against Texas Tech and they can't get it done at home, then we can go there. And I know it's popular to be like, screw Texas, man. They suck. Well, give it another. Let's see conference play
Robert's
first.
Not in here. You don't have to say that.
That's part of the reason it's probably popular. Yeah.
For me, I typically go about 3 weeks into conference play because Texas will play usually one pretty decent opponent in non-conference play, and then they should have beat Arkansas. Right? I mean, in theory.
On that night, I'm not sure, Zach.
No, I just meant like when they scheduled that game, if you look at it the way Arkansas's played recently, Texas should have beaten Arkansas, so it's not a cupcake, but it's a winnable game. And then who was the third team that Texas played?
Rice. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
58-0.
So, But once you get into
compare their non-conference with Oklahoma State.
Oh no! I'm just saying, like once you get into conference play with Texas, once you get 3 or 4 games, that's when you really know what Texas.
What's
is
their
about.
first 3 or 4 games? I don't have their.
They've got Texas Tech and then TCU and Oklahoma.
And then I think their fourth is OSU.
And then Oklahoma State, yep.
So they got a pretty tough.
And of course, Texas is in. OU's in Dallas.
OU's in Dallas, yep. TCU's on the road.
They got Tech at home.
It's in Fort Worth. Tech at home to start off. They go to Baylor. They go to Iowa State. And they go to West Virginia.
Well, I'm kind of with Zach. I think you get a better picture in the first 4, maybe.
Once you get to Oklahoma State, you have a pretty – because TCU's pretty solid this year, and OU, well, they're number 4 in the country for a reason, but we'll know more about OU in the next couple weeks. But once you get to that Oklahoma State game, Texas is who Texas is.
Yeah, that's what you'll see in those 2 games after Texas Tech, most likely. TCU and Oklahoma back-to-back. You're going to find out, like Zach said, what they have, especially offensively, what they can put together. Then we'll definitely know.
Both basically road games, if we're being honest. I know that the Cotton Bowl's usually half and half, but it's like an OU home game.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of OU
TCU
fans.
game. They'll bring as many people to teach.
Oh yeah,
you guys, and I say both of you because I haven't heard you ever say that. But there's a perception out there that TCU is going to be a factor. Convince me why TCU would be a factor. I mean, they haven't been worth a damn for a couple of years, even though they beat us.
For me, it's better than they were last year.
But is that good enough to finish in the top 4 or 5?
Well, they always beat Texas. I'm not saying – well, if you look at the rest of the Big 12, I mean, West Virginia's better than people thought they were. They were better than they were last year. You've got OU, who will finish towards the top, at the most likely the top. Iowa State, if they don't figure it out, but they're still middle of the road at the very least, so you can put them at 5 at the least. And then you've got Texas, who's probably going to finish somewhere between 3 and 5. Oklahoma State's going to finish somewhere around the middle.
So you got lots of teams in that area,
and
right?
that's 5. But if you look at TCU, I think TCU could easily finish 4 or 5. Now that's everything needs to play out, and obviously there's going to be a team that gets left out of the top 5. Is that going to be Oklahoma State? Is it going to be Texas, TCU? Way Iowa State's been playing, is it going to be Iowa State? So, but I think TCU is certainly lower upper 5.
Yeah, TCU, I agree with you. They got Texas's number, and of late they got ours.
Yeah, they're not going to run the table,
but they can't find their way through the rest of the schedule.
Yeah,
and Duggan, okay, he's been around forever. Whether he stays healthy, who knows?
Yeah. That's why I would hang it on experience at the quarterback Position. But again, it's Duggan. We kind of know. There's a few quarterbacks in this league that we kind of know what to expect, I think. And he's probably one of them. Zach Evans is a decent running back. They've got some weapons, but yeah, you're right, Tom. I think it's going to be one of those situations this year where they might surprise some teams, right? And we look at some scores at the end of the weekend and say, oh, man, they got them there, and then they lose to teams they probably shouldn't. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of the story of TCU. There's a little rundown of the Big 12. It's an open league, no doubt.
How would you like to be laying your life savings out on the Big 12 standings right now and say, here's the way they're going to finish?
The way all of college football has gone this year, I would not feel comfortable betting at all.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to bet on BYU.
It's really tough, man. It's really tough to bet on college football.
Now, why would that be?
They are damn good to start the year. They've upset 2 higher-ranked teams, and I'm not saying that they're going to end up in the top 10, but you look at what they've done so far. Are they
the best team in the Big 12?
Right now, yeah, probably. Probably right now, yeah.
Oh, man. BYU. Man, there's people hopping on the
BYU
BYU train. Get out of here.
Don't start me on these
BYU stands for Big 12. You're unbelievable.
Big 12.
Oh, man. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, since Tom's in today, I saw a great example over the weekend of a professional football team that blatantly showed that they're tanking the season away to get the first pick of the draft. Not the Giants, believe it or not.
Same stadium.
The Giants are actually trying in a way to win. It's just that's the best they can do. This team is actively
the Jets
trying.
Can't try to win because they really don't have talent.
It's not them either. They're actively trying to blow the season. And I'll give you the perfect example of why when I saw that. But I also want to get your guys' thoughts on tanking in general. Is it something that should be acceptable?
Like the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Exactly. Those types of things. We'll find out what Tom and Zach think about that. Coming up next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa.
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Tom Dorado with you on this Wednesday. Okay, Tom, so I told you I would let you know about one professional football team that I watched intentionally tank and lose a game on Sunday. And that would be the worst team probably still in the – well, it's borderline at the moment, but I would say is close, and that's the Houston Texans. Not the Jets, not the Jags. And the reason why is they don't need a tank anymore. They got their QBs. But the Texans don't. And Deshaun Watson is not going to probably play another down with them. There was speculation and rumors and questions because they play on Thursday night and their starter's gone and they didn't have trust in the backup that they had drafted. So and Deshaun Watson's not punished, so technically he could play, but they quickly said no, he's not going to play. But it's not for the reason we all think. It's not because he's got these allegations against him and all this stuff off the field. It's because the Texans don't even want to give themselves any type of chance that they might win a football game. They did that in week 1, and it was a mistake when they beat the Jags. That wasn't supposed to happen. So on Sunday, it was a 3rd and 15 for the Texans. They got 13 yards on the play. They were playing the Browns, and the Browns were ruled offsides. So, of course, that just would result in the 3rd down, repeated again. So the Texans decided instead of accepting the penalty, they would decline the penalty, make it a 4th and 2, and then punt the football. Instead of accepting and going for it on 3rd down again, they said, no, we don't like where our field position is or whatever. They said we're going to take the fourth down and punt it away.
So what would the offside have made it?
It would have made it a 3rd and 2.
Okay.
Yeah. And they said, no, we'll decline the penalty and make it 4th down because they got those 15 yards on the play.
Well,
When I saw that, it made me think to myself, no self-respecting head coach does that, okay? And the guy that came in this year, David Culley, it was kind of a last-minute type of, we hope you can take over this job, right? Bill O'Brien was a disaster when he was there. He leaves the place, he gets canned, and then the Texans are already a mess. Deshaun Watson is not able to do anything. They lose their best receiver. They traded him away when Bill O'Brien was still there. Now they have nothing. And so David Culley comes in, and even he is not dumb enough to make that move intentionally. Something tells me that he had word from above after week 1 that, hey, you guys beat the Jags. That wasn't supposed to happen. Now we got to make sure we lose all the rest of these games because we have to be in line for that first overall pick and get our quarterback of the future, whether it's Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell or whoever. We have to get that QB of the future because Deshaun Watson isn't it. Davis Mills isn't it. We got to go get somebody else. That's where I saw that intentional, what I thought was, hey, tank. So this season coming up here, we're going to expect a lot more losses, probably starting tomorrow for the Texans. So that leads me to ask the question, are you guys okay with the concept of tanking? And we'll stick with the NFL for now, but you can also, if you want, you can broaden it out to all sports because we've seen it, in quotations, happen seemingly all over the place. But is it something that you guys are okay with the concept of? Does it bother you?
During the break, so I'm just going to repeat it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give my thought here so you can finish it out because I think you probably have more to say on it. For me, it's weird because on the surface of it, from a fan standpoint, yeah, I'm okay with it because we're not good enough to win, right? We don't have the athletes, we don't have the talent. We may not have the coaching staff. I don't know. We don't have enough to win enough games to make the playoffs, and we certainly aren't going to make a run in the playoffs. So I'm okay with that because then you can look at the better players you have now. You might be able to trade and get more draft picks, and if you suck enough, you're going to get a top 3, top 4 pick, and usually those guys are difference makers in a couple of seasons. So yes, but then Tom kind of changed a little bit of my opinion because, if that's what you are okay with, then why even play or anything like that? So I'm kind of torn, but on the surface level, yeah, I'm okay with it. But I guess if I get too deep into it, I'm like, maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
From a competitive viewpoint, and that's all I look at it. I'm totally. It just turns me off completely. Players are paid to play. If we're talking on a pro scale. Mm-hmm. And your job is to go out there and try to win. Now, if it turns out that you are not as good as the team you're playing, which might very well be the case, if you're talking about tanking somewhere, then so be it, you lost. But I have a hard time believing that an owner or leadership, as you point it, and I don't think it's the head coach who would do it. I think it comes above them.
Yes.
GM,
yeah,
owner
absolutely.
Type thing. But even then, a lot of your GMs now in all pro sports, well, I say not a lot. A good many of them have played before or have been in the business enough that they're competitors. They don't come to the yard to lose. They don't care about looking down there next year at the first 3 picks or whatever. And if you ask or you put your team in a position to lose a game because of that, that's deplorable. It's just totally against everything that I stand for. And I wouldn't put up with it. And I'm sure any player who's worth his salt or her salt, depending on what sport you're talking about, would not go along with that. Now, you might not be as good as the teams you play, and you may end up losing those games. So be it. But do you go in, even if you're given the message from above, that, now, hey, Patrick, you got to consider now, if we win this game, that's going to cost us a draft. Damn. Draft picks are not a sure thing.
That's where I'm going to come in on this because overall, do I like it? No, but I can understand it from a business perspective. Okay, let me explain. I say that because, especially in the NFL, we know now you got to have a quarterback. You got to have a good quarterback, and you want one at the very top of the draft that you hope can develop.
And you could have a good quarterback and still not win.
Right, exactly, but it does give you a better chance. The Texans are looking at this saying, if we had Spencer Rattler or Sam Howell or whoever is going to go number 1 next year, that's where we can start building. We have nowhere to build right now. And the Jets were doing the same thing last year. They were tanking at the end of the season. Then they beat the Rams, right? Because the players went out there and beat the Rams, and they were like, it cost them the first overall pick. They had to slide down. They didn't get Trevor Lawrence. So it's not a new concept by any means. And yes, I do firmly believe that ownership, and the Texans' ownership is terrible. It's a disaster. I absolutely would buy that the ownership sat down with the head coach and said, hey, this is just letting you know, this is our goal. Okay, this is where we want to be at the end of the season. 0-16, 0-17, or 1-16 at the worst, or whatever. That's where we want to be.
Well, it cost the Philly coach a couple of years ago his job.
Right, but the reason they say they do it this way, and I could see the Texans doing this too, they tell Coley, by the way, your job is safe. Regardless of the record. I know it'll look bad, but your job is safe. You know why? Because we'll get that number 1 overall pick in here next year, but you have to go out there and sell it to your players every week like, hey, let's go, guys, let's get them. We're going to go out there and win this game. And they did in week 1. And something tells me ownership was not too thrilled. Probably brought Coley in and said, look, man, don't make it obvious, but you got to help us out here. You know, we can't be going out there winning football games. Seriously, that's the goal of these teams.
The other side of that coin is, though, these people who are making that decision, and I go back to the Philly situation again when that coach, I forget what the hell the play was, but he called a play that was obviously
Chip
a
Kelly.
tank job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now the other side of the coin is, why you think you can go get Spencer Rattler, your fans who have to pay tickets for the next year look at your team and go, why the hell would I pay tickets to go watch a team that tanks, that doesn't want to win?
That's why I really don't think they care. You know, if they got a number 1 overall pick, excitement all of a sudden is back in the franchise.
Well,
there's too many things that could go right if this did work out.
Rattler's no assurance they're going to win.
But it's better than what they have. They were in a situation where they had one of the top 5 QBs in the league. Now he's never going to take another snap for him.
Can you imagine how you could go look at yourself in the mirror as a player if you believe this crap with 15 more games left to play in the NFL, and you're just going to go through the motions because you're worried about Spencer Rattler?
No, and that's my other point. Players, I don't think they care about that. Players go out there and their goal, you know, they've got stuff riding on the lines as far as their performance,
too,
right?
Yeah.
So they're going to go out there and perform. We saw it last year. Again, the Jets are a great example. Those players went out there in week was like 15 or something like that, or 16, whatever it was, and beat the Rams, and it wasn't supposed to happen. Why? Because the players played well. So they're not with it. Whether they can, you know, have their suspicions if it's happening or not, but everybody else up top is, and that's the whole goal. It's another good example why Deshaun Watson has provided them such a great excuse to not play him because of all the stuff going on off the field. But the main reason is they don't want to play him because they cannot give themselves any type of chance to win. So we're going to keep him inactive. We're going to bring in a rookie QB on Thursday night, feed him to the Wolves against Carolina, get our loss, move on. That's the goal.
That's what turned me off about the Thunder last year. And you guys can, you know,
the fans were all about it, too.
I mean,
they were all over it.
But you're going to sell fans on the fact that, you know, this is a franchise that was pretty darn good for a couple of years, and all of a sudden you're in a, and I hate the word, but you're in a tanking mode. All of a sudden,
but
it's okay to lose?
No, but I think when you look at it from a Thunder standpoint, you went from having guys like Russ and KD and James Harden. Traded James Harden away. That trade didn't work out. You traded Russ away. It worked out for a little bit. You brought Paul George in. It was okay, but KD wanted out. And so you have really, really, really solid support pieces, but you don't have that franchise-type guy. Like Cade Cunningham is a franchise-type player. That was Oklahoma City's goal. Go out there and get a guy like Cade Cunningham to put with really good support players. And so when you're like, okay, we can get a top 5 guy that's going to be the piece that we need, the fans were like, hell yeah.
No, you can get the number 1 guy. And how do you do that? You lose games.
Let's get a superstar to go with our solid support.
Losing games is betted intentionally. That's the whole goal.
Now, Thunder fans won't be okay with it if you do it for like the next 2 or 3
Yeah,
seasons.
you're not going to do it. In like the Jets situation, they just are a bad team, right?
They lose every year.
They got a young QB and number 2 pick, but they still can't build around him because of the Jets, and they're incompetent of doing so. The Texans still believe, I think, if we get our guy, we're going to start building, and let's start from scratch there.
Give them a few years, they'll be the Jets.
I can tell you, if I own a team, and you 2 guys work for me, and you came into my office with this theory, your asses will both be out. I wouldn't want somebody in there working for me who wants to lose a game for whatever reason down the line. That just totally flies in my face right there. And it's insulting, I think, to bring that up to a competitive person because you're in to win the games.
Yeah, but the problem with that, though, is you don't have the guy to help you win those games. And so I think the whole goal is not to tank from the beginning. It's like you take 2, 3, 4 years, you're like, man, we just can't get it right. If we intentionally suck for 1 year, we can go and get a quarterback that we won't have to do this anymore. You don't set out with that goal, but you get to that point that you're desperate, you'll try anything.
And I'll say this because we got to go.
But I agree with you, Tom.
But the system in the
and
league,
I won't hire you back either.
The system in the league is built for this to even happen, right? They set it up to where tanking can be a thing. So if they're not going to take advantage of it, somebody else will. That's
Which I think I like the lottery in the NBA.
Right. And then there's been a lot of questions to the NFL. Look more into that. Maybe one day, who knows? We come back on the afternoon sports drive, hour number 2. Buy or sells coming up next.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta.
It's hour number 2, afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Tom Dorado with you on this Wednesday. And to get started in hour number 2, we'll get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the afternoon sports drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell on the afternoon sports drive.
Sell.
All right. Selling. Well, I already know that.
We're going to take another time out here.
Automatic sell, good to go, and we'll talk to you later. Okay. Oklahoma State has not scored over 28 points so far in 3 games. That's been the cutoff, right? A buy or sell that this week they clear 28 points for the first time.
Sell. And that's because I haven't seen an offense capable of putting up 28-plus points. And that doesn't mean that they can't get there, but when you're without 6 of your top 7 receivers, when your offensive line is missing a couple of key pieces early in the season, when your starting quarterback has to miss the opening game and deal with nerves or whatever in week 2, the defense has kept this Oklahoma State team in these games. Now, is Oklahoma State going to score points? Sure. But this is going to be the best defense they've faced so far this year. And if they can't score 28 against not better defenses than Kansas State, what makes me think they can score 28 points or more against Kansas State? So I would sell that. Are they capable of doing so? They would need to have all 6 receivers back, and they won't because a couple of them are done for a while. But they for sure need to start with having Tay Martin back and maybe Jaden Bray and maybe one of the Green twins. We don't know if any of those guys are going to be back, but I've yet to see an offense that can score that many points, so I would sell that until I get proven otherwise.
You know, it's a tough call now not knowing the cast of characters
Absolutely.
come Saturday.
Yeah.
If those 3 guys that you just mentioned are back in the lineup, then I would say, I would buy that score
Hell, at
more than
least one
28.
of them.
Yeah. And I think I'll buy it anyway. Not by a bunch. You know, maybe 31. Might be 31.
The ever pessimist. I'm actually really impressed.
It might
you
be
bought this.
31.
I am too.
I'm not saying it's going to be 41 or 51.
Right.
But, you know, that you're talking about just somebody else kicking a field goal every once in a while.
What's been the most they've scored? 28
has been the most they've
So it
scored.
needs to be more than 28?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Wow.
maybe 30. Might be 30.
29.
So I'll buy it. I think the odds are probably in their favor that they can probably do that somehow, some way. That's not a whole level of points considering
Right.
what we have scored in years past. But I could see him getting past 28 by not by much.
I'm going to sell because I told you guys, and you know about what Kansas State does in terms of allowing passing yards. Okay?
Yeah, bunch.
Well, what has Oklahoma State not done so far this season?
I will say, though, that the same argument could be applied, though, with the Boise State run game. Oklahoma State hadn't ran the ball well at all.
Right, but
and Jalen Warren went off.
But the running game is much better than the passing game, and we knew that coming in this season. Okay,
If
and it
I
stayed that
knew
way.
what the receiver thing was like,
Right.
which we don't know, I mean, we'll probably know later in a week, but if I knew one or two of those guys were coming back, then I'd say the chances of moving the ball both ways,
Yes.
especially
a hell of a lot
if
better.
especially if it's Tay Martin.
Yeah.
If Tay Martin's back,
But
then I
assuming
would
we had
buy
the
it.
same situation we had in Boise, then I would say they didn't have to sell it.
Right. That's what kind of what I don't know for sure. If Tay's back and if Brady's back, whatever, all these guys that you mentioned, not all of them are going to be. Obviously, we know Braden Johnson is a no-go. Langston Anderson, no-go. But anyone else, then maybe I can change my mind. But Oklahoma State has not thrown the ball effectively yet. And this is a team that doesn't allow a lot of rushing yards, Kansas State. Now, I think that'll be maybe the most they've allowed all season if OSU keeps it up on the ground. I'm pretty confident there. But nothing has led me to believe that it's going to be this potent air attack. And even if the guys are back. Okay, I mean, still, is anything going to happen? I don't know. So there's too many questions for me to buy over 28 points. I think at this moment I have them in line to win this game, but I think it's going to be another low-scoring affair where the defense is the story. Come Sunday, come Monday. So I really think that's where we're headed in this one.
How many of these corners played receiver in high school?
Probably all of them.
You got a lot of bodies, man. Just stick them out there. If they're on scholarship, stick
Hey,
them
man,
out
remember
there.
when you used to catch the football? Yeah, do that.
Anybody who's any good has played quarterback.
That's what
probably at one
pisses me
time.
off about people that want to DH in Major League Baseball. A lot of these pitchers in high school and college, they could absolutely rake. Let them hit. That's on the pitcher. So that's my thing right there.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to Oklahoma State. I'm going back to the defensive side of the ball. Oklahoma State has been quite effective in creating turnovers going back to last year, and that's carried over into this year. So buy or sell, we see Oklahoma State create at least one turnover against Kansas State on Saturday.
Well, Kansas State's turned it over 5 times in 3 games, so I would say the odds are in their favor. They'll turn it over again. They've been intercepted 3 times and 2 fumbles. So I would say, I mean, that's not really asking a whole lot out of a defense to get the ball once, probably.
I figured you'd had a rough day. I wanted to give you an easy one.
But that's a 70-mile-an-hour fastball.
Tell me
right there.
who it's going to be and how it's going to be then.
Now you're starting to zero in on.
Let me get an interception in the third
I would say Howard
8-minute
might.
mark.
Howard might. I'll go the other direction. Howard had that just crucial fumble last year.
Yeah.
When they were
Straight
driving
Jason
to take
Taylor.
the lead. And I think Antoine got credit for knocking it away or whatever. But ball security wasn't all that good, and it candy hop right to Taylor. He goes back the other way. But I would say the odds are good. You could pick somebody off. 5 times in 3 games.
70-mile-an-hour fastball, that'd technically be harder to hit if you consider yourself a pro hitter.
Especially if you're the Mets.
Than a 96 mile.
Yeah, I'd rather have a
You're right.
95
Yeah,
come down the
that's
pipe.
true.
So,
That's true.
and Tom, I like to think of myself as a pro hitter. So I mean,
Well, you
in everything I do,
See,
basically.
but you think of yourself a lot better than most people do.
I tend to lean towards that old man at the gas station.
He was on to something all of a sudden. Okay. I'm going to buy because Kansas State is susceptible to turnovers, yes, but Oklahoma State also really, they get after it, man, and especially bringing the pressure up front, which I think has kind of gone underrated, right? We look a lot at the linebackers causing havoc, but the guys up front that are making plays, man, Brock Martin really established himself again. He should have had another sack, obviously, probably, to his total. That didn't work out.
He got credited with that sack. He said they gave it to him.
Oh.
It was just ruled a penalty.
Oh, okay, that's right. So
I thought it wasn't, though. I found that out last night.
Yeah.
They actually gave it to him. I
Wow.
was surprised.
That is, I didn't know that either. So
Yeah.
there you go. That's good. And he's got after it along with a bunch of other guys up front, man. So it's great to see that, and that's forced quarterbacks to get out of their comfort zone, and you let your secondary clean it up. I am curious to see what the impact of no Trey Sterling is in this game. It might not be massive, but it is Trey. And he does provide a spark back there at times. But Colby really picked it up. I think he really set under in center field, for that interception on Saturday, and he's going to be after the football. Jason Taylor, and Tanner McAllister, you got guys that are going to make plays for you back there. There's a lot of talent. So I think they're bound to turn it over, interception, fumble, whatever it is, at least once in this game, yeah.
I think there's a decent chance it could be an interception. You just look at the way those safeties are roaming back there, and the force and the pressure that front 6 puts on quarterbacks. I think causes a lot of interceptions this year. But give me linebackers. Give me a Malcolm. Give me a Devin, Cameron Farrar, Mason Cobb, whoever it is. Some kind of strip that gets recovered. Now, I'm not going to go as far to say that they'll score on that play, even though this defense has a propensity to score on defensive turnovers. So give me a strip. Give me a strip fumble there by the defense. Some linebacker.
They'll have their hands full with this offensive front, though.
Yeah, they will.
And Howard can and does get rid of the ball. Not as fast as Bachmeier did.
Sure.
But I guarantee they stressed that this week. Colin Clyde did, quarterback coach, that these guys come after you. It's like sharks in the water. You can't sit back there and count Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2. I mean, you're going to have to let it go one way or the other.
And that's what I think is good, because while this is going to be a really solid offensive front that Oklahoma State's going up against, this will be the best defensive front that Kansas State has faced so far this year. So
That's why it should be a good matchup.
I like the matchup.
That, to me, is the focal point of the game. And it is every game, really. I mean, we can always reduce it to that. But I think you got the premier sides of the ball going against one another when that's out on the field. And, everybody's going to win one. Defense going to win one, offense going to win one. But I think the relentless pressure on Howard will do two things. Number one, I mean, Knowles and certainly Malik Knowles and Brooks. It'll take some time to get in a pass pattern. I mean, they got to get off the line scrimmage, number one, and it'll probably neutralize a little bit what they'll try to soften us up with Deuce Vaughn on handoffs and things like that.
Right.
But overall, I mean, that's the premier matchup right there, and whoever comes out on that one's going to win.
Yeah, this Oklahoma State defense is they're looking forward to this matchup. And you mentioned the fumble last, caused by Malcolm Rodriguez. If you go back and look at that play, that's just pure experience right there. In one hand, he's got the guy wrapped up, and the other, he's digging and ripping the football out. I mean, that's textbook.
I'd have to go back and look at the play-by-play, and maybe who. That was a strange guy to carry the ball. The one who got stripped, because he wasn't one of their regulars who fumbled the ball that day.
K-State game?
At Boise.
Oh, Boise. Okay.
And I have to go back and see who actually fumbled it up. But,
yeah.
But, Rodriguez showed that he's been here for 10 years. I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Grabbed it, ripped it out, and it was kind of a strength thing.
Yeah, it was.
He was stronger than the guy carrying it.
That's what I'm saying. It was pure experience on that play. He's been there, done that a few times. He knew exactly what to do in that situation.
I could have looked at that myself.
I'm going to look at one of our favorite aging QBs for this next one here. A guy aging very, very rapidly before our very eyes.
Oh, man.
Buy or sell that Big Ben Roethlisberger comes back for another season. I know we've talked about this a few times, that this could very well be his last year, but there's been rumors flying already. Oh, Big Ben wants to come back next year. He's going to find, whether it's with the Steelers or not, he's going to play again. He's 39 years old. 39. So buy or sell, he gives it one more go next year, or no matter what happens this year, he just calls it quits.
I would sell that. I think he's done after this year. I mean, it kind of had a Drew Brees feel to it when he decided to come back for one more year, and I thought he was going to be gone this year. For me, physically, it's different than a Tom Brady coming back or a Aaron Rodgers coming back. Like, Big Ben probably could play for a little bit longer, but his body, I just don't think is going to let him, and it's not like he's got a great offensive line, and it's going to be really tough to try to build an offensive line through the draft and in the offseason. Like, if they couldn't do it this year, what gives him confidence that they're going to build a better offensive line this upcoming offseason? So unless he goes out there and just, throws for 5,500 yards and 45 touchdowns and looks like he's a, born-again quarterback and he can go another year, I would sell it. It's just simply physical.
I've watched him twice. He looks old. He moves old. And this doesn't diminish what he's done all those years. He's been a hell of a quarterback.
Agreed.
Yeah. But he doesn't. It's kind of a young man's game thing, and
big time.
He doesn't look the part of a young quarterback, which he's not.
No.
Now you can come back and say, well, look at all the experience he has and what he does and blah blah blah. He's a leader. He also separates some people on the team too with his attitudes. But he looks the part of somebody that I agree with you. It's the farewell tour, maybe, and who knows if he'll make it through the farewell tour. I mean, he hadn't done that recently either.
I was surprised he made it through last year, I'll be honest. But I thought right away, I'm talking the second the game ended against the Browns in the playoffs, that he'd be back because of the way that it ended. He can't go out his final game losing to the rival like that in front of the world. So he came back, trying to give another shot, but I'm with you, Tom. He looks limited, and he is. Now he's dealing on top of this with a pec injury, which for him, that's the worst thing that could happen.
He just doesn't want to hand it off to Mason Rudolph. That's the deal.
Well, and he could be in line to play this week if Big Ben can't get it done. I'm not sure how. I guess
the second guy.
He's the second guy at the
Okay.
moment. I guess marginally it'd be an upgrade, but not by much. Mason Rudolph has had his time. So I think that Big Ben is absolutely done. And the worst part about it too is this team is so stacked at wide receiver with young guys. They've got them everywhere, all over the place, and you've got a quarterback that can't get him the ball. They can't go down the field, and you've got a really talented young running back. You're telling one of the worst offensive lines, as bad as the Giants, if not worse, to go out there and protect old man Big Ben, who can't do anything. It's just a recipe for disaster for the Steelers team. The fact that they've won one game this year is amazing already. But I think they're in for a long year. Like you, Tom, again, I'll be amazed if he actually stays healthy enough. He's already dealing with an injury to play all the way through. Again, this Steelers team is extremely talented at the skill position spots, but man, they don't have a guy that's able to get him the ball. So this is Big Ben's last year, regardless of what happens. I think if it might even be best for him if he can avoid the playoffs this year. Just call it a year after the regular season, whatever happens.
Less games.
And again, I'm like you, Tom, too. He's been a legendary QB. The stuff he did in his prime was unbelievable. He was well known for being able to shake off guys that were trying to pull him down and make crazy plays. So a fantastic career. Nothing to be ashamed of by any means. One of the better ones I've seen, but it's time. 39 works for some guys. Tom Brady,
sometimes,
but not Big Ben.
Sometimes in any business, it's you have to get up one day and say, I don't think I need to.
Yeah,
I need to go off and ride into the sunset.
And it's probably even tougher when you've done like stuff like Big Ben has done, and then you're in a career in
the
a sport.
competitive juices always take over.
You're like, man, I can do it again.
But I got to think you were talking about the cold hard facts of administration and leadership. I bet somewhere along the line this year, the GM sits down with him and says, "Look,
well, before the year, he took a pay cut.
What are we doing
He
here?
took a pay cut to come back. We
need to know what you're going to do.
They weren't going to pay him his full salary to come play again. That's for sure.
What management needs to do is they need to tank the offense. Tank the year, let him retire.
Here we go.
And get the quarterback of the future.
Tanking again, a tanking conversation.
That's what they need to do.
Zach, you're just a tanker.
I'm not. I'll accept that. That's fine. So, I think you'd probably have to go back a few decades, maybe more, to see an Oklahoma State offense that had less than 100 passing yards in an entire game. Ooh. Now, without a lot of receivers, you don't have a lot of firepower. Whether that's viable excuse or not is yet to be seen. We don't know what receivers are going to be back, but I would think that Tay Martin should be back. It didn't seem like it was that big of an injury. We're hearing that he was left back, so he would be 100% moving forward.
Right, didn't travel.
So you would think that he would be back. No catches on this one. You don't have to if or but buy or sell. Spencer Sanders has 200 plus passing yards on Saturday. You can take into effect whether or not a receiver is going to be back, but it's simply 200 plus receiving yards.
I'll be pretty quick with this one. I think they can, because I'm expecting, and this time I mean it, people. I know I said it last week, but this time I mean it. Tay Martin, I'm expecting him back. So with that being said, Brendan Presley's still good to go. Hopefully get another guy back or two. I think you could, against this defense, dink and dunk your way through 200 yards even, if that's what they decide to do. Again, I don't also claim to understand or know half the time what Oklahoma State runs on offense or plans on running on offense whenever I see them out there and they don't do what I think is going to happen. So, but I think that's something that can happen. Spencer Sanders good to go. He's going to be able to find guys. So I would be shocked Because if you look at the first half and remember how it was 7 yards.
7 yards.
That's not going to happen again. I really doubt it. That was unbelievable. So I think he's going to clear 200 in this game for what would be his first time this season, I believe. And that could very well translate into a win.
Well, if Martin's back, that enhances it, no doubt.
Yeah.
If he's not there.
Well, I think that gives you at least 100.
But I don't know that I would buy that yet because this defense from Kansas State's not going to let him just sit back there and do what he wants to do. I mean, we talked about our defense getting after Howard. I guarantee you this defense is going to get after him now and force him to pull it down and run, and that's not a throw. Okay, it's not a passing yardage. I just think. I think it'd be hard for him to get to 200. I could see a 175, 180 kind of thing, depending on who's back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we get the same situation we had last year,
I'd sell that.
Absolutely.
then there's no way that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
But, you got to assume somebody's – I mean, how long can you be out on an ankle? My God.
Well,
come on back and start playing here.
And he didn't look bad in that opening drive against Tulsa.
Until he limped off.
Well, even then, though, it doesn't I think that was just an irritation. I don't know. I don't know the physiology of his ankle, but it didn't look like he was injured. He looked hurt.
That opens up another can of conversation here.
Which we won't go down.
Well, we will, because I'm going to do it.
Well, I meant like too deeply into personal player.
We're going to.
I'm not going to.
Back in the day, you could challenge a player, and if you were hurt or really hurt, they're two different categories.
There's different in my mind. There's a difference between hurt and injured.
Yeah, if you're bone sticking out, you're injured. Okay,
absolutely.
If my ankle hurts a little bit, you're hurt. And back we could challenge players and just now is it right to force them to go out there and play? No, it isn't. But sometimes they need a little nudge. Like okay, well if you're not playing this week, I'm just telling you, Patrick's right behind you, and if he plays this week, then you're not playing the next week.
Yeah.
So motivation usually is a good way to go about it. But coaches are in big betwixt and between now. Let's just say Patrick is one of these guys that I'm not sure he's really hurt, okay? And I'm not sure this ankle thing is a real deal. If I get on you too much,
transfer portal.
Guess where you are? Guess what you do?
You're not on the bench, you're on the portal.
You're in the portal.
I'm gone.
And you're complaining about how I treat players, right? So coaches are in a tough situation. Yes, they have to listen to the medical staff. The medical staff says his ankle is swollen, can't play, bang, he's not playing. It's out of your hands.
Yeah.
But to me, there comes a time when you're either injured and you need to hang it up for a while, or you're hurt and you need to get your ass out there and play.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from.
Zach, what you got real quick? We got to bounce.
I'll buy it if he has Tay Martin. Okay. I think if Tay Martin is out, then now and I'll go back to the exact same thing that we talked about with the run game in Boise. If I thought Oklahoma State could exploit that 180 yards given up a game by Boise State. I didn't expect over 230. So if he has Tay Martin, I think they can exploit. Now they're not going to let him do it every once, but I think they can exploit that pass defense enough if he has Tay Martin. If he doesn't, I'm with you, 170, 175, give or take.
When we come back, we'll check in on Major League Baseball, wild card, and playoff races in general.
I saw your cards got jinxed last night on Twitter.
They did, but even Bob Nightingale will not ruin this train. The Cardinals will not lose again. They'll be headed to the World Series.
Never again.
It's fantastic. I can't wait to
next year in spring training.
Exactly, yeah.
10,000 straight games.
That's the next
spring
loss.
including.
Coming up next, Triple Play Sports Radio. Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Tommy D on this Wednesday afternoon. Major League Baseball, the regular season is about to come to a close, believe it or not.
Goodness.
The Mets have already booked their vacations. Yeah, they're tanking the rest of the way.
Hey, it's the longest winning streak in Cardinal baseball history.
10. It ends tonight.
Hey,
it ends
let me tell you, boys. The Cardinals deciding to turn it on at this point, against the teams that they played.
Just to rip your heart out at the end.
Well, no. I mean, they'll rip my heart out but it's not even going to be a rip my heart out situation because when they get in the 1-game wild card,
they'll lose.
We all know there's a good chance they might not win it. But at least they got there. If you look at the June, July they had, oh my God, it was awful. This team belonged.
Heard you,
yes,
you
were.
okay.
I gave up. Right, I
Yeah.
told you guys multiple times it was over. This was the worst loss they had. And then they topped it the next day, and now they win 10 in a row, and
What a
everything's
front
just
runner.
clicking.
Any front runner.
So to set the record straight, 10 games for the Cardinals is the longest since they won 11 in 2001.
They ain't winning tonight. It's coming to an end tonight.
So it's not the longest in franchise history. It's the longest since 2001.
Bob Nightingale for USA Today is a moron.
What a dude.
Keen moron. Okay, him and Dan Woken over there throw the moron parties and just enjoy it. So the reaction on Twitter was great. I took part. Everybody blew up on him. It was awesome. So hopefully he's wrong, but Cardinals got to put the pressure on. However, I will tell you guys this: it does feel nice to look at other teams below you now instead of having to claw your way back
And there's
up.
some separation now.
Yeah, a little bit of separation is always a good thing too. The Dodgers and Giants, it's still both coming down to it. We know in the division for that one, the Dodgers turned it on. The Giants have had an incredible season, but it's still, believe it or not, may not be enough to win a division title in the NL West. Either way, whoever doesn't win, that's probably going to end up there.
Have
in
they
that.
won 100 games yet, or are they close?
The Giants, they're close, I believe. Yeah, they're like 2 or 3 off, maybe. So they're right there. But I do think it's interesting to just see the collapse of some of these teams, and specifically,
The Mets.
the Mets are one of them, no doubt. Really had their issues this season, but we said it coming in, and I'd have to go back, Tom, and check all of our predictions, but the Padres were going to be this team again, man. They were loaded everywhere you looked. Pitching, offense was great. Young talent, right? Tatis Jr., perennial MVPs, the guy.
Darvish, that Paddock.
Darvish, yeah. I mean, they got Snell now. I mean, they got guys.
Yeah, I know.
And they just completely melted. I just fell apart. And it goes to show, last year we saw the shortened season. You give the Padres are the perfect team to win all the time in a shortened season, right? If they play whatever it is, 60 games, they're going to make the playoffs and maybe win a division every single year. If they had to play 162 games, we've seen that there are cracks that are exposed by other major league teams. When they come in and they got swept by St. Louis, that was it. We saw things fall off the hinges. Players, Machado's yelling at Tatis Jr. in the dugout. Tatis Jr.'s whiffing on an easy fly ball in center field. Just bad things that are going on for him. So they fell apart. The Reds fell apart. The Mets had chances. Now, I know they were probably never going to go too far, but they did have chances. And that division in the NL East was wide open for a while.
They never had a chance. I'll be honest with you. I get on them all the time, but they never had a chance. Syndergaard didn't pitch. He didn't pitch all
That's
year.
why it was going to be rough, right? You lost your guys
left
pitching.
in July. So now you're trying to make up for those two guys. I mean, they just couldn't. And some of the $multi-million didn't perform. Lindor didn't perform the way they expected him to.
Who could have foreseen that coming with Francisco Lindor?
Well, it happens. A lot of people come to New York, don't play.
He signed
thumbs down, baby.
Javi Baez comes
More
in
worried
and
about thumbs down.
all he does is create more
My
drama.
fans don't love me.
Great.
So it was a total collapse.
Yeah.
I'll be interested in. There'll be some house cleaning, I'm sure, this year, because Cohen. I don't know how much he knows about baseball. Alderson, the GM, should know. He's been around forever, but I got to think Rojas's seat is not only hot, it's sizzling. I mean,
You would think. Yeah.
and you got to get rid of some of these. Conforto wanted a new contract this year. He probably would get one where he has to pay them. He didn't have that kind of a year.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys kind of went down the tubes. But I'm with you. I think San Diego is the biggest collapse. Cincinnati's probably right behind them.
Yep.
These guys have had the lineup and the talent all year, and we're right there on the cusp. They were fighting each other for the wild card, and your beloved Cardinals like 7.5 to 10 games out.
See, that's the thing. Those two teams screwed around, and just so happened St. Louis started winning, and all of a sudden, look at it now. It's crazy. And I will tell you guys, it was weird to see John Lester win his 200th of his career the other day
In a Cardinal
in a Cardinal uniform hugging Yadier Molina.
Oh, man.
That was weird. After all the times I've seen those two go head to head. Whew, that was strange. And it was also just weird to see John Lester get hugs from everybody. He's not, as you know, not much of an affectionate guy.
No,
and everyone's just hugging him. And
I'm
he's
surprised
like,
he didn't just
get out of here. Even he at that point said, "Bring it in. We're riding
Group
the 9
hug.
game at this time,
Group
number
hug.
200."
We've won more games than we've ever won.
Even John Lester knows. Now, Zach, I know you aren't talking over there. I know you aren't
not
talking.
even paying attention.
That's right. Yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Your Braves are kind of hanging on.
The Braves are.
I mean, just barely though. I mean, they want to give it away.
Exactly. They're really trying.
It's impressive when you lose your franchise player, and you're still in that.
That's
hunt.
true.
No, not really.
Acuna?
I'll say why. Because their team is extremely talented, loaded up.
Are they?
offensive. Yes.
Albies, Frida, Freddie.
Freddie Freeman.
I mean,
There's Dansby Swanson is
a
incredible.
lot of teams don't have those three.
There's a lot of guys all the way through that can make up for it, but Acuna, huge loss, clearly.
So
Well, they always struggle.
What's their lead now?
They
Couple
always
games?
they always struggle in September.
There's just a couple of games, right? The Phillies are
Phillies
still
are hanging in
still
there a
fighting.
little bit,
Yeah. I think the Reds had
3 games.
3 games, yeah.
Well, that's still hanging in a balance there.
I want to say the Reds were playing the Phillies, or maybe it was, I think that was right, and had a clawback like down 5 and came back and won it and did this whole, we're back. This was just what we needed to, we're going to see.
Hey, I'm going to give you guys a little hint on something. I'm not going to go too in depth because it's, it's not done till it is done. But this conversation that we're having here, I think we got a show coming up very soon that we're going to add here. We're going to talk some baseball every week for 30 minutes with a guy who knows baseball, and we'll be able to get us some big-time guests. Again, I don't want to throw it out till it's done, but we're inching toward a 30-minute baseball show is what I'm saying, that'll run for every week, and we'll have baseball talk, especially now with playoffs coming up. So I think that's in the offing for the next couple of weeks start, but I just wanted to throw that tease out there a
Yeah,
little bit.
that'll give something to look forward to. And on top of that, Tom, tell us who we have again coming up. Where are they now here shortly?
Well, a good friend of mine, Stan Weber, who's a longtime broadcaster for Kansas State, football, basketball, but former All-Big 8 quarterback, and he's going to get on with us, and we're gonna go over this matchup X and O wise, kind of man for man, if you will, and tell us what to expect from some of these guys, because Kansas State's got some new people. They're running some portal guys, transfers that have played a role and are still playing a role. And he's seen a bunch of these games, obviously. Stan has played in them. And he almost told you, I think, off the air that, coming out of Goddard, Kansas, Pat Jones really wanted him down here. And they recruited him real hard as a quarterback. And I think he came down to Oklahoma State and here. Obviously, he went to Kansas State. So, but we'll have him on, and we'll get his perspective on this matchup Saturday night.
Good stuff coming up at 5 o'clock. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we'll tell you what we learned and say goodbye. It's coming up next. Welcome back. It's the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, and Tom Dorado with you. Getting ready to say goodbye for the day, but before we do, we'll tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
All right, so I guess it's kind of a two-parter. I learned that Portland State has a school, and that Portland State has football.
Yeah.
There we go.
They
Nice.
should play Long Island University.
Yeah.
There you go.
Portland State is where I'm headed. So they were going up against a Western Oregon team, also probably
They have football?
a new one in my book there. You never know when it comes to the FCS.
Unlike
you just
the
never know.
juggernaut Eastern Oregon.
Right, Eastern Oregon, legendary, but Western Oregon, not so much. So when that game comes around, he decided, head coach of Portland State, I'm talking here, Bruce Barnum, decided, I want to get a bunch of fans there. We want a great environment. We want to have everybody there, a lot of students. So his marketing ploy was, he said, for everybody that shows up, he'll buy them beer.
Oh,
That was it. He said,
They make that much money?
yeah, this is what his quote was. He said, quote, I was thinking pandemic, college football hasn't been around, so let's kind of get a little crew and have beers on top of the roof, like Shawshank Redemption, but this blew up a little too much. And what does he mean by that? Because at the end, there were 2,064 total beers that were served. Ooh. 786 Deschutes fresh squeezed IPAs and 1,260 Coors Lights. resulting
What's the price of a
in
beer run?
resulting in a tab of $14,448.
That's like the season's worth right there.
They won 21-7.
Hey.
So they defeated Western Oregon. Apparently the crowd was all riled up, ready to go. 'Cause free beer, why not? $14,000. So he was asked afterwards, who's going to end up paying that, or he's still going to do it. And he goes, "You're looking at him right here. He makes $200,000 a year." So
Whoa.
stood up and
More than I expected.
answered his,
Good for him.
Did exactly what he said. He kept his word. 14,000 less, but he got the beers taken care of,
for
and there
him.
was a party at the Portland State football game.
I tell you right now, there will be a game. If this guy sticks around, there will be a game every year
yeah, and
that he does this.
it was funny because the athletic director and the support came out and said, "We love the idea. It was a great marketing idea. Let's keep it going."
And I was going to say, whether the coach pays for it or not, there will be a game that they set aside every single year.
Yeah.
That hey, you show up, and now they'll probably put a cap on it.
I would think.
They're going to be like give away 2,000 beers and no more. Make them start paying. You get 2 free beers per patron or whatever. But there will be a free beer game from
They
here
said
on
it
out.
was over 3,000 fans that ended up coming, which is huge for a Portland State Western Oregon game.
Yeah.
So they packed it out. And,
There will be a free beer
yeah.
game from here on out. So I found out. I'm sure you heard about this as well. A guy put $25 on a 16
I know where this is
leg
going.
NFL parlay.
Oh,
It went through BetMGM, $25. If he hit every single leg of that 16-leg parlay, $727,000.
and they were all underdogs, correct?
You had
You just have to pick the winner or the spread.
1, 2.
They were all money line.
So it's like
winner outright.
Washington football was minus 175, Chicago minus 130,
Okay, so they weren't
minus
underdogs. Okay.
650. But he hit 15 of them and needed Detroit to beat Green Bay. And obviously that didn't happen.
Oh.
However, MGM gave him $133,000 for hitting the first 15 legs.
Yeah, because
nice.
if you do it that many, there's a way where you can kind of cut it off, I think, which I thought he would do after I read that. But then I thought, why in the world would you hedge it all
On the
Lions to win Monday Night
On the
Football against the
Lions.
Packers?
Yeah.
The fact that you hit on 15 is incredible, and you wanted to get it all because of the line. Like, okay, you don't take the Lions, you would have gotten less money, but you're really going to put that out there? I saw that, and I was like, incredible, but what are you thinking at the end there?
$25 got him a
Yeah.
cool $133,000.
Well, that's a big. That's a win.
Now I'm curious if that's post-tax. I'm guessing that's pre-tax.
I'm gonna guess
So
pre-tax.
he's probably taking home $75,000.
Yeah,
It's just like the lottery,
than I'm
right?
taking home.
You gotta get it taxed. It's income.
Uncle
so
Sam wants some of that.
yeah, but I thought that was incredible. That's a heck of a parlay.
Yeah.
And 15 out of 16 is incredible. But when I saw who it hedged on, I was like, dude, come on now.
wrong.
You were feeling real froggy that
That's
day.
wrong.
Yeah.
Well, he jumped.
But here's what I
Yes, he did.
learned.
Yes, he did.
That
You bunch
just
of
a bit.
yard
Well, I mean, other
birds.
than the fact that you guys are yard birds, I mean, that goes without saying.
Tanking is stupid. What? Oh, okay.
But
good.
sometimes
I'd fire your
the
ass
knowledge
so
of a subject is not there, and then opinions are voiced, not knowing the knowledge.
social media.
Sports Talk Radio. Oh,
Both.
wait.
Whoops.
Okay.
So I'm going to center on the ESPN Plus broadcast of Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Now let's back this picture up a little bit to a couple of years ago, I guess it would have been, when everybody in the conference was on board with this ESPN Plus digital move, and where all of a sudden your third tier broadcasts were going to be put aside. Now we're going with the big dog, okay? And ESPN Plus is going to make us money, and this is the future. And Bowlesby came out with the future speech and all that. And everybody kind of said, okay, this is where the money is, man. This is where we're going to go. Now, ESPN Plus is trying to promote the product. And I have to back up again. FS1, we know where it is right now. But when FS1 came on board, they were putting playoff games in baseball on FS1, and people in pro baseball going, no, wait, what's FS1?
Yeah.
Can I not see it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it promoted it enough to make a lot of money, but people know where it is now. That's what ESPN Plus is trying to do. I don't look at this as a slap in the face at Oklahoma State. When they made the schedule out, they were 3-0 each. Number one. Number two, they were not in a situation to make a move on Wednesday to get the 3-0s going against each other. I think they looked at this as saying, you know what? We got two of the better teams in the league.
It's a good matchup.
So what we're going to do, if the very worst, we're going to get people in Manhattan and people in Stillwater to go out and buy ESPN Plus, right, to watch a game. It's all a promotion thing. So it's not, we take these things so many times so personal. They hate us and the world hate. This is a business decision. But keep in mind, Oklahoma State was one of the schools that was right there saying, we're behind you. We want this ESPN Plus digital thing. We want your money. You can knock ESPN all you want, but don't be hypocritical, because if you don't want their money and you don't like what they're doing, when they give you the slice of the pie at the end of the year, just tell Bowlesby, at Oklahoma State we don't like ESPN, so we don't want their money. Don't talk out of both sides of your mouth.
I think the frustration, at least for me, with ESPN Plus, isn't necessarily that the game is on or that it's on ESPN Plus, because I agree with the decision. Let's promote our product. It's the fact that they haven't really put out a great product yet. And that's my frustration. Is there's been technical difficulties.
Yeah, you're right.
For multiple games.
That was going to be the case always.
No, I know, but if you're going to try to dump as much money into it as you can, you need to have a better infrastructure. They're trying to tout this thing, and they've signed the UFC to this massive contract, and this wants to be this end-all, be-all, we're the place to come and watch digital sports, and it's been a lifesaver for some situations. It's been really good, convenient, rather. But the overall product, in my opinion, has just been very average to a little below average, and that's
the conference bought it, though.
No, I know, and that's the frustration from me anyway, is that it's not a great product. So don't push it as we're going to put this premier matchup, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, two undefeated teams should be ranked. ESPN Plus, make it a better product.
ESPN Plus is almost solely for UFC, and then on top of it, they also know that as a station, live sports is the only thing that is keeping them in business at this moment.
Hey, we'll get Ryan Leaf on Saturday, though. Ryan Leaf's the color
guy.
guy.
Go. Yeah.
I mean, what was their pitch? You get a chance to see all your sports.
That's the thing, right?
Absolutely.
You're going to see all these sports, all these these non-football sports. And no one cares about that.
But
no one's going to watch it.
It is accessible if you really want to watch the game in Manhattan. You want to watch the game in Stillwater.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the game in Stillwater, come
thing.
to the game.
It's a good thing.
But you can find it.
Yeah.
And somebody will have it. And your buddy pays $19, whatever it is.
Just like a pay-per-view fight, sort of. Yeah.
It's $7.
Yeah.
Is it $7?
$7.99.
Wow.
I think.
So,
it's doable.
If you really want to
If
watch
you really want to, you can.
Yeah.
That's a Papa J's pizza.
There you go. Sacrifice your pizza. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler, and Tom Dorado, of course, will be sticking around. He's got Where Are They Now?